Hey there, you're tuned in to MEA Worldwide. I'm your host, Elena Jordan, and today I am sitting down with one of the hardest working women in show business, Karen Strassman.
That's really sweet.
It's true. You have one of the longest resumes of anybody that I know, and everything that you do is absolutely fantastic. One of the coolest things about you, though, is that you are also an international celebrity too, because you're able to not only light up our screens on Creepshow, Preacher here, but also you got your start in France.
Yes, that is true. You're so sweet, Alana.
I've missed you. We've actually gotten to interview once before, so I've missed you a lot.
Sweet.
But yeah, so tell us a little bit about how that started, because I know that you went to France originally for school and got your degree in psychology and in theater over there, and then just kind of started from dialect coach into voiceover. Walk us through that progression.
Well, I went over there to study and learn a new language because, it was just, I'm part Danish, so I grew up, we'd go home to Denmark for vacations, and I just felt like I wanted to go somewhere else and widen my horizons a little bit. And so I went to France to study for a year. And while I was studying theater and French and psychology, you've done your research, lady. And while I was there, I saw an ad on a little bulletin board for a studio that was looking for American actors to follow an apprenticeship as a dialect coach for a studio that existed in France that doesn't exist anymore, called Studio VOVF, that coached French actors to act in English for the camera, because there were so many co-productions that come into town in France, and actors in France need to be able to act in English in order to book those kind of jobs. So I took the apprenticeship, and I was just really good at it. I mean, it was a fluke. And there's a lot of things I'm not very good at, so it was very lucky. And they offered me a full-time job the following year as one of their main dialect coaches, as the second dialect coach. And I thought, well, I can go back and get my psychology degree in the United States, or I can stay here in Paris, in the middle of the city, in my little apartment near Saint-Michel, right near Notre Dame, with my little big brown bike that I ride everywhere, and stay here another year and coach actors. And so I did, and while I was doing that, they also sent me to set to coach actors on set, and one of the directors for one of the TV shows I was coaching on, he said, "Oh, little Karen, she's so cute, we give her a role." So I got a role in a French TV show, and I got an agent, and I just ended up being really, really happy there. And I enrolled in the French National Royal Conservatory of Acting, which is like the biggest acting school in France, where the government actually funds you to go there. And so I studied, French theater in French. So I got to, I wouldn't say perfect my French, but I got pretty damn good. And I studied Molière and even Shakespeare in French, and Racine and all of the classics, and fencing and voice work, and I learned horseback riding there. It was really, really magical.
So what brought you back to the States?
I should put this over my shoulder, I guess, right? So I was doing television and film and theater and a lot of voiceover there. What brought me back to the States is that my mom died at the age of 59 of cancer. And she got cancer at the age of 56. And it was a time in my life where I realized, shit happens. And I thought, life is not always as we expect and might not be as long as I expect. And I kind of went, are there things that I've always wanted to do that I have put off? Or are there dreams that I've had that I've ignored? And I kind of made a mental list and looked through, and I realized that ever since I was a little girl, I'd always wanted to work in American TV and movies. And I was things were going so well in France that I didn't really think about it. And I also had this little voice in my head saying, you're not pretty enough, you're not talented enough, you're not good enough. And so it just seemed safer to avoid that. And I thought, life is maybe shorter than, and I have a choice. I have a choice is just to stay here and enjoy a lovely life that I have, except that I wasn't growing as much creatively anymore because I'd gotten in a comfort zone, or take a risk. And I did that deathbed exercise where I imagined myself on my deathbed going, would I regret more just not going and never knowing, or would I regret more going and failing? And I realized that I would regret more never having tried for my dream.
I love that.
And I thought even if I fail, that would be better than never daring to try. So at an older age, I went to Hollywood. I came here. I knew one person. And I just, somebody said, meet this person. And because I had had years and years of voiceover and a lot of experience, I got a voiceover agent very quickly. And because I'd been doing so much TV and film, I did get a on-camera agent very quickly. And, I just walked the walk, and I got into American acting classes, and I took meetings, and I just did student films, and, kind of had to start out all over again in some ways. But I have never regretted it for a second.
Well, you have definitely succeeded by all accounts. You mentioned you kind of made a mental list of some things to check off. What are some of the things that you are most proud of that you can kind of put that check mark by? Because you've done everything. You've done video games. You've done, drama. You've done comedy. You've done horror. You've done everything. I mean, when people are going to celebrate in France and go to the Louvre, you're the voice that they hear going through. I mean, it's
I don't know if it is
incredible.
anymore, but yeah.
But you have been making impacts on people's lives for years now. What are some of the accomplishments of your many, many, many that you have that you personally are most proud of?
I'd say when my nieces and nephews were little kids, going to their house up in San Francisco and hearing them say, Auntie Karen, will you read us a book and will you do the voices?
Aww.
And getting to do those voices for them and seeing them laugh and smile. That's probably my biggest accomplishment.
And your versatility is just absolutely amazing. Every time that I see you or hear you, it's never Karen, it is a full character that you have completely fleshed out. It's insanely amazing. What is your process for that? I mean, because you've done such diverse things, do you have a different process when you're going in for voiceover than when you're going in for live action?
I think it's about, I'm most successful at it because I have different processes that haven't worked as much in the past. I'd say the formula for not working is trying to do the right thing and please people. The formula that really seems to work is when I approach it like a kid and go like, what would be fun here? So if I approach it like a kid and go, if I were an evil villain, what would I be like? If I was, a little gnome, what would it be like to be a gnome? And I think approaching it from a playful perspective, when I did Preacher and I played the evil German scientist, Dr. Lois Slotnick, when I did the audition, they didn't even know what they wanted when they put out the audition. And when I auditioned, they just wanted some scientist. And I was the one who thought, I did an audition, and I thought it was okay, an American voice and everything. And I said to the person who was taping me, I said, you know what? I'm just jonesing to do this just for myself with a German accent, because it feels like it would work. And we did, and we looked at it, and we were like, that's kind of cool. Let's submit that. And that's what booked.
I had no idea that you came up with Dr. Slotnick being German.
Yeah.
I just always assumed that was in the script. Wow.
They altered the script a little bit. When I got on set, we talked about the character and stuff. Yeah.
I heard that you even helped pick out the glasses and everything too, right?
Yeah. The director and I went and we looked at, what would be the exact right glasses, and that is kind of what made the character pop. And also that kind of stuff, like for me, a lot of the times, not always, but props and costumes, you kind of like settle inside it, and all of a sudden you're inside another human being that has parts of me in it. And it's sort of the same thing, very much the same thing for the character I just did in Creepshow.
Yes, I
cheap white trash Leslianne Dowd, who gets her comeuppance. I won't say how, but that was so much fun. Because
how was that working with the puppeteers and everything too? Like how
they are. I think they're some of the most talented and well-known puppeteers for creatures and stuff in the business. And when I was working directly with them, they had built like a scaffolding. I won't give too much away, but you'll probably see pictures online where we had our heads through the scaffolding, and the creatures, I won't say what they are for people who haven't, but they were puppeteering. So our bodies were underneath the scaffolding, and our heads were outside, and they had the creatures on top of the scaffolding, and they were lying underneath the scaffolding, manipulating them, so they couldn't even see what was going on. And it's part manual manipulation, part electronic. And so they had these creatures coming at us that were completely electronic and terrifying, and they would puppeteer them they're lying on their backs on this apple box, and we're all squinched up together, and I think I have my leg around one of the puppeteers because we're all squished up underneath there. And it's just brilliant. Brilliant. And covered with blood, but that character was super fun because I got to, I think I grew up really thinking that I had to be like a good girl. So anytime I get a role where I don't have to be one, I think it's really fun and freeing for me.
You're so good at playing the villain too.
But this character, I decided that I wanted her to have, she's cheap white trash, a hairdresser. So we gave her this big bouffant hairdo, a lot of heavy fun makeup, and I decided I wanted to have really long nails like Kathy Baker in Edward Scissorhands. And I talked to costume and wardrobes about that, and they said, yeah, that would be great. So we put on these really long nails. The only problem, which was so much fun, because again, that in itself created the character.
I love how involved you are in the whole process of creating these characters. I mean, and it really shows because you just become these people. It's really amazing.
Fun. It's so much fun. I mean, it's like I feel like a kid playing make-believe.
Did you ever read the comics for Creepshow or for Preacher beforehand?
I saw some of the movie beforehand, and I watched John Harrison, who directed my episode, who was completely involved in the 80s version. I think he was an AD and assistant director, and he directed my episode. So I watched a lot of the stuff that he'd done, and all that really kitsch horror, and it's just so much fun.
I have to ask you too, because you are definitely a very accomplished actress in all of English language productions, and also your deep ties to French and French culture. But you have done so many anime dubs. You have become kind of a Japanese icon. Do you study Japanese at all? Are you kind of into any of the Japanese culture as well? And how did that come about that you started becoming the voice of so many iconic characters in so many animes?
It was one of those things, like the thing about me becoming a dialect coach in Paris. It just happened. I arrived here in the States, and I had all these voiceover skills, and somebody said, oh, you should do anime, and recommended me for a job, and I auditioned for it, and I booked it, and then that director said, oh, you're really good at this, you should do this job, and they recommended me, and I auditioned for it, and I booked it, and it just happened. And I didn't go like, oh, I want to, and I didn't really even know too much about it, so I had a real education in doing it. I just love voiceover, and I just love cartoon characters and all that. So it's just another genre for me. And I've had a couple opportunities almost to go to Japan to do motion capture and stuff like that there. And either they didn't go through, or I had another gig and I had to choose between them. So I still haven't been to Japan, and I really, really look forward to that. And I've learned a lot about Japanese culture through anime. But it's really, it's like, it's anime that has been my window into Japanese culture. And, you know, now I work with a lot of Japanese clients and kind of feeling that culture and enjoying that. And, you know, and I feel, I learn a lot from them, and I learn a lot from the fans who know a lot, often more than I do. About
Do you have a favorite series now that you've been in so many?
Oh, there's so many that I love for so many different reasons. One that I'll quote, which is not as well known, but it's probably my favorite anime that I've done ever, is called Monster.
Monster, yes!
And for hardcore core fans, it's, and I think Guillermo del Toro was going to make it into a movie once. Nina Fortner, you're good. Holy cow.
Monster is great though. I mean, Nina is fantastic.
I think it's my favorite anime that I've ever done, and it's too bad that it didn't get as much distribution, because I just think it's a real, there's a lot of anime like that of any shows are great entertainment, but there's a lot of anime series that are literal art, and that to me is an art. But there's just like, I still have a huge affection for Code Geass and Colin. Bleach, where I play Soy Phone. A Lucky Star, where I played Miyuki, is just so endearing. You know, Hunter x Hunter has been really fun. There's just, you know, and I'm gonna like leave you today and go, I should have mentioned this, that, and you know. And Persona also I have a real affection for, both Aigis and Nanako. And fans just have a huge affection for them. So.
Is it ever overwhelming when you go out to conventions and things and seeing people all dressed up as your characters?
It's just sweet. It's so sweet. And also because when we work, we're in the studio. So I'm in the studio with an sound engineer and the director, and then maybe a whole bunch of clients, or maybe clients on the phone. But it's a very isolated process. So I'm not even aware that it touches people, or that people care about it, you know, until I, you know, get, you know, social media messages and stuff from fans, or until I go to conventions. And you know, it's really humbling to see how much these things affect people's lives.
You make a big impact, that is for sure. Also in video games, which are such a huge culture too. Do you ever play any games as yourself? Have you ever played and interacted with yourself?
I am such a bad geek. I'm a horrible geek. I'm like, I really need to like up my game. I get so busy because just in terms of all of the work I'm doing, you know, and preparing auditions and learning lines late at night, you know, that I haven't had time to play games. Although apparently the cast from Resident Evil 2, the game that just came out, we're going to be playing it together and doing a thing online or something.
Fun.
Yeah, I just had dinner with all of them last night, and we're going to be doing a thing where we play like. So, but I don't have time. I think I played Mortal Kombat a couple years ago at a con, and I was horrible at. I was horrible at it. My nephew is a gamer, and he's kind of tried to explain to me how some of that works. And I'm just like, I need to take a class or something.
Well, since you have lent your voice to so many different projects all over the spectrum, has there ever been a time that you've been caught off guard and heard your own voice in something and gone, oh wait, that's me?
Sometimes, yeah. I've sometimes flipped the channel on an airplane looking for a film or TV to watch, and like twice it's happened. That I think once was Silicon Valley, and sometimes I won't recognize my voice when they will play us a voice reference during a recording, and they'll go, oh, this is the character, if I hadn't done it for a while, and I'll be like, really? Are you sure you didn't get the wrong actor in that? And I'll be like, no, that's you. Then that's fun when that happens.
I love that you have done so many voices. There are times that you literally don't even recognize your own voice. Incredible. Well, there's so much to keep up with you. Where can fans keep up with you online?
Fans can keep up with me on Instagram, at Karen Strassman, Twitter, at Karen Strassman, fan page, my Facebook fan page, Karen Strassman fan page. And I have a website, karenstrassman.com. I'm lucky because I don't think there's anybody in the world who has my name, so I get to use it for myself.
I feel like maybe you've just done so many things. Anyone who did have the name just changed it. They were like, she's one. She's the only Karen Strassman. There can be one.
Anna, you've done your homework. Oh my gosh. Thank you. It's just, I love getting to talk to you.
I love getting to talk to you too. Thank you so much for coming in. And thank you guys for tuning in as well. You can check out more of our interviews at MEA Worldwide. That's MEAWW.com. Until next time, I'm Elena Jordan. Have a good day.